At 11:32 p.m., under a thin veil of mist that hugged the treetops of the pine-strewn lowlands along the Kaliningrad-Poland frontier, Polish air defense crews watched their routine radar sweeps. Then in an instant, the night shattered. Orlan 30 drones, ground-crawling miniature UAVs and Kaliber cruise missiles surged out from over 60 miles inside Kaliningrad, converging on fuel-holding areas and ammunition parks close to the border. This was not a probing raid. It was a multi-domain assault built to Operationen, NATO's Baltic lifeline. Within seconds, the hush of the night gave way to a new kind of high-tech clash. Don't look away. The secret of what happens next will be revealed. And hey, don't forget to subscribe and put your thoughts in the comments. Poland's radar consoles flared crimson. Within 3 minutes, F-16C fighters screamed from bases less than 40 miles inland. Afterburners burning. They climbed to 25,000 feet as AMRAAM 120s locked onto calibers, streaking in at nearly 550 mph, shattering the lead spearhead before it could reach the frontier. On the ground, Langusta rocket systems and HIMARS roared out from hidden woodlots. Each salvo was synchronized to real-time drone feeds. Leopard 2A5 tanks and Rosomak infantry carriers pushed into forward blocking positions, their composite armor and 120mm main guns forming a moving shield for farming villages scattered along the border. Polish electronic warfare trucks flooded the electromagnetic spectrum, jamming drone guidance and severing command uplinks. Recon microdrones, some no bigger than a football, threaded through smoke and treetops to laser paint mobile launchers, feeding exact GPS coordinates into mobile artillery systems. By the 10-minute mark, precision counterfire had shredded most of the opening missile wave in midair. What began as a sudden night assault from Kaliningrad was now trapped in a tightening net of air, land, and cyber defenses. The frontier that moments earlier seemed on the verge of collapse had become a hardened kill zone, and the tempo of the battle had been set. Smoke from Poland's first 10-minute counterstrike still drifted over the pine ridges when the next wave lifted. Just before dawn, at 04:58, paired Su-30s and F-16Cs roared off forward strips barely 35 miles from the Kaliningrad line, climbing to 30,000 feet in full afterburner. Their mission: crack the radar shield anchoring the enclave's air defenses and clear a corridor for follow-on strikes. Ahead of them, low observable stealth drones the size of compact cars ghosted across the border at treetop level. Their composite skins scattered radar returns. Onboard programmed emitters mimicked the signatures of heavy bombers, tricking S-400 Triumph batteries into lighting up and wasting salvos on empty sky. Moments later, robotic decoys, ground-crawling units with deployable reflector masses, added a second layer of false echoes, painting Russian scopes with phantom squadrons and fake armor columns. While Russian crews fired on a digital mirage, Polish strike jets executed a classic pincer. Su-32s climbed to suppress flank defenses while F-16Cs dove from altitude to release precision JDAMs and anti-radar seekers. Each impact chewed into radar masts and hardened bunkers, shrinking the Russian early warning bubble mile by mile. Simultaneously, mobile HIMARS units positioned inside Polish territory launched GPS-guided cluster munitions. Warheads burst into submunitions that cratered Kaliningrad's primary runways and fuel dumps, locking MiG-31s and Su-35s to the pavement. Overhead, returning F-16Cs loitered in combat air patrol, ready to swat any desperate scramble. By 05:30, the air picture had flipped. What began as midnight defense was now a full-spectrum offensive: stealth deception on the deck, precision bombardment from altitude, and long-range artillery punching deep behind the line. Kaliningrad's S-400 grid, built to deter NATO, began bleeding capability with every passing minute. The opening frontier fight had vaulted into upper airspace, proving Poland's counterstrike was no mere shield but a spear, designed to keep pressure climbing as the campaign rolled into its next decisive act. The thunder of falling rockets still echoed across the morning sky when Poland pivoted from air dominance to ground control. By 06:10, shattered tree lines along the border were alive with low fog and the hum of machinery. Behind the fading roar of F-16 afterburners, mine-laying robots the size of small ATVs rolled out from concealed timber revetments, guided by encrypted GPS feeds. Each vehicle carried racks of TM-62 anti-tank mines, planting them at 30-foot intervals along forest tracks and creek fords known as likely infiltration routes. Close behind, dog-shaped combat robots padded forward on jointed steel legs. Their sensor packs sniffed for tripwires and chemical residues, while compact 7.62mm turrets pivoted to cover every avenue of approach. In minutes, these mechanical scouts turned the undergrowth into a silent ambush grid primed to shred any armored patrol that tried to break through. Shielded by these sentinels, robotic infantry fighting vehicles advanced in staggered columns, weaving between birch and fir stands. Smoke drones drifted overhead, laying opaque curtains that masked movement from reconnaissance optics. Each robotic disgorged dismount teams armed with portable anti-armor rockets and night vision sights. Their mission was simple: locate and cut off Russian recon squads still hiding in ravines scarred by earlier missile impacts. Overwatch came from roaming counter-battery radars mounted on 8-wheel trucks operating out to 25 miles. The moment a hostile signature appeared, pre-plotted artillery circuits answered with precision 150mm shells inside 2 minutes, silencing enemy tubes before a second volley could leave the barrel. By Oro 6:45, the wooded borderlands had become a three-dimensional trap. Mines and robotic dogs denied hidden gullies. Rosomax squeezed off escape corridors. Radar-guided artillery punished every attempt at indirect fire. The maneuver marked a seamless handoff from the aerial hammer of Phase 3 to the ground vice of Phase 4. Kaliningrad reconnaissance units that had slipped forward the night before to spot for missiles now found themselves encircled and deaf, cut off from uplink relays crippled during the air raids. They faced a battlefield where every move drew instant counterfire. By 07:15, the minefields and robotic ambush grids had squeezed Russian reconnaissance teams into shrinking pockets. With the outer pickets neutralized, Poland pushed its next card, a lightning ground raid designed to blind remaining command links. From concealed launch points barely 10 miles inside Polish territory, special operations units rolled out in silent electric buggies no larger than a golf cart, but capable of 40 miles per hour over rough forest tracks. Their routes had been pre-mapped by AI reconnaissance scouts that had spent the night threading pine quarters and limestone gullies, allowing the buggies to slip under radar curtains and even bypass acoustic sensors by matching engine noise to ambient forest sound. At 07:40, lead teams breached the perimeter of a Russian electronic command post hidden in a disused rail depot less than 12 miles from the border. Moving in pairs, operators planted compact EMP devices, charges built to emit powerful electromagnetic pulses against relay masts and antenna arrays. The synchronized detonation blanketed a 25-meter arc in a silent surge, frying uplink circuits and severing every drone control channel that had survived the earlier airstrikes. Almost immediately, Kaliningrad's drone formations went dark. Quadcopters froze mid-hover. Long-range loiterers lost links and fell out of their patterns. Orlan scouts spiraled down like dead leaves with the Russian eye in the sky blinded. Encrypted coordinates flashed to Langusta and HIMARS fire controllers lying in wait behind wooded ridges. Within 5 minutes, heavy artillery stitched the disabled command post and nearby gun pits with 155mm precision shells. Rosomak IFVs and Leopard 2A5s already positioned along pre-plotted fire lanes closed in to mop up isolated batteries that had lost sensor coverage. By 0810, what had been a nerve center for Kaliningrad's western defenses was a smoking ruin. Mortar and rocket crews cut off from higher command abandoned guns or surrendered under white flags. This seamless progression from robotic minefields to pinpoint commando raid linked directly to the ground dominance achieved in Phase 4. Poland's battle rhythm now pulled from the forest floor up through the electromagnetic spectrum, proving that victory in the modern battle space depends as much on seizing invisible networks as on controlling visible terrain. By 0830, the command post lay in tatters and drone uplinks across a 25-meter sector were dead. With Kaliningrad's electronic nerves severed, Poland shifted from surgical raids to full area control. Robotic engineering teams moved first. Compact bridge-laying robots the size of pickup trucks rolled to river crossings, and within 15 minutes unfolded 40-foot aluminum pontoon bridges capable of supporting 70-ton loads. Leopard 2A5 tanks, guns level, rumbled across in column followed by Rosomak carriers packed with combined arms squads. High overhead F-16Cs orbited at 28,000 feet while mobile HIMARS batteries set up kill boxes to intercept any late Russian counter-thrust. Every move forward was paired with precision-guided barrages from 155mm howitzers and Langusta rockets. These overlapping fires pounded suspected mortar pits and artillery nests, leaving no gap for retaliatory salvos. As armored spearheads fanned out across former no man's land, combat rescue teams advanced in their wake wearing bright infrared markers visible to Polish drones. Medics and military police located wounded or surrendering Russian soldiers, provided field treatment, and escorted them to pre-designated safe corridors on the Polish side. The humanitarian lanes broadcast over open frequencies made clear Poland's mission was aimed at systems, not lives. By late morning, the sector resembled a secured grid. Leopard tanks anchored key junctions. Rosomak patrols sealed forest trails. Counter-battery radars hunted any lingering launch flashes and answered within 2 minutes. What had started hours earlier as a desperate night defense had evolved into a tightly woven occupation of terrain, airspace, and spectrum, linked seamlessly to the Phase 5 commando strike. This full-spectrum dominance demonstrated that once an opponent's sensors and command links are blinded, their remaining firepower can be contained and neutralized with disciplined precision, turning contested ground into controlled space. By 11 a.m., Poland's armored net spanned the Kaliningrad frontier. Command links inside the enclave lay in tatters. Building on that dominance, long-range fires took center stage. From camouflaged firing pads 25 miles inland, HIMARS, Langusta, and long-range batteries launched coordinated salvos that reached 40 miles, smashing deep ammunition parks near Cherniakovsk. Explosions climbed thousands of feet, setting off chained detonations that stripped Russian garrisons of stored rockets and heavy shells. At the same time, Polish cyber units executed synchronized intrusions into Kaliningrad rail control servers. Freight signals froze, automated switchyards jammed, and every rail artery normally funneling reinforcements from mainland Russia through Belarus convulsed and stopped. Deprived of fresh munitions and troop trains, Russian defenders found themselves cut off and their heavy weapons stranded. The strike locked in territorial and electronic gains achieved in Phase 6, isolating Kaliningrad's western sector and denying any easy counteroffensive. By early afternoon, coordinated HIMARS and Langusta barrages had neutralized forward strike networks. Drone corridors were sealed, missile pads silenced, and key rail arteries severed. Strategically, Russia had lost a vital springboard for Baltic operations and was forced to rethink its western posture as supply lines stretched hundreds of miles across Belarus. Yet one question lingered. If this hardened bastion could be breached, what stronghold remained untouchable? Poland's open evacuation lanes for wounded Russian troops underlined the mission's stated aim: security, not vengeance. As Polish columns withdrew in precise order, dense black smoke spiraled thousands of feet over the Baltic pines, leaving a secured frontier and a sobering lesson in modern multi-domain defense. But the front was not static. At 1717, deep inside the Saraya Bryansk forest, the silence shattered. Without warning, Russian forces unleashed a barrage from BM-27 Urigan multiple rocket launchers and heavy mortars, pounding the tree line with relentless fire. In just 10 minutes, more than 300 rockets and shells rained down, ripping open trenches and shaking forward Ukrainian positions. This was not a random strike. It was a full-scale push designed to rip open the forest corridor and cut a path toward Lyman. The calm would not last. What followed became a brutal lesson in modern warfare. As Zoopark radar swept the horizon, the Ukrainian Vilka M crew knew they had minutes, not hours. Their 12-tube launcher on a 30-ton 8-Ace-8 transporter came alive under red instrument lights. Every man moved with muscle memory, coordinates loaded, blast doors sealed, systems checked. They were not firing blindly. They were aiming at the enemy's lifeline. Electronic warfare trucks nearby lit up the spectrum, jamming Russian targeting radars with bursts across multiple bands. Screens inside Ukrainian vehicles flickered as countersignals bit back. It was a silent tug-of-war in the electromagnetic domain. At the forest edge, motorbike infantry darted between trees at nearly 40 mm/s, carrying compact robot mine layers strapped to their backs. The robots crawled into position on supply roads, burying shaped charges designed to catch Russian armor on the move. At 21:52, the first Ukrainian rocket tore from its tube with a thunderous roar. The blast wave split the night. Its hot exhaust left a towering thermal plume. By firing, they had revealed themselves. Russian counter-battery units were already hunting, rockets queued in return. The hunter had become the hunted, and survival depended on shoot fast, vanish faster tactics. Up above, the sky began to crack open. At 15,000 feet, Ukrainian Su-27 flankers and MiG-29 Fulcrums carved wide arcs, their afterburners flaring against the darkness. They were not yet hunting targets, they were bait. Their mission was to draw Russian interceptors into the chase, pulling fire away from the missile crews still racing to displace below. Scrambles from Russian bases across Kursk followed. MiG-31s and Su-35s lifted with radars sweeping. But before missiles could lock the airspace filled with shadows, dozens of FPV swarm drones no larger than backpacks sliced across low treetops, while heavier strike UAVs climbed higher, broadcasting signatures like beacons. Some were armed. Many were expendable, launched solely to confuse defenses. The effect was immediate. Pantsir S-1 batteries spun their turrets frantically, dividing fire between swarming UAVs and larger, slower Vilka rockets still visible on scopes. Tor M2 systems joined in, radar screens cluttered with false returns. Then came a decisive blow. A loitering munition guided by ground spotters dove from 6,000 feet into a Russian radar mast near the depot. The dish collapsed in a ball of twisted steel. The early warning net momentarily half-blind for 30 precious seconds. Tracer fire ripped the night as Russian autocannons opened up. Streams of red climbing at swarming drones. Ukrainian UAVs circled like hornets. Some rammed sensors, others dove onto ammunition trucks near revetments. The airspace over Kursk became a layered chessboard where every move cost lives and machines. Higher up, the duel intensified. Su-27s released flares as missiles streaked by, while MiG-29s rolled into defensive spirals to bait pursuers further west. Every mile they drew Russian fighters away from the depot meant one less threat to the rockets screaming toward their targets. On the ground, the combined arms assault pressed. T-84. Oplot tanks rolled out from tree cover, diesel engines growling as they advanced at nearly 30 mile/hour across rough farmland. Columns of armored personnel carriers disgorged infantry who mounted dirt bikes for lightning flanking runs. Motorcycle squads carved through side trails at over 40 mph, their riders armed with shoulder-fired rockets and automatic weapons. Their task, harass and confuse, sever supply routes, strike soft targets, and vanish before heavier forces could respond. Farther forward, special forces slipped through darkness equipped with high-power laser designators. From concealed positions, they painted hardened bunkers and storage shelters surrounding the depot. Long-range artillery crews miles behind the line waited with coordinates loaded. When green beams flickered across reinforced concrete, guided shells followed within seconds, slamming with pinpoint effects. Russian commanders answered with fury. BM-30 Smerch launchers roared, spitting waves of 300mm rockets. But Ukrainian EW trucks unleashed powerful jamming across GPS and guidance bands. Many incoming rockets veered off course, detonating harmlessly in fields or scattering their warheads in wide patterns. Accuracy stripped away. Incoming salvos failed to land where intended. As the defenders tried to rally, another surprise struck. Small robotic crawlers no bigger than a toolbox, quietly deployed earlier by motorbike squads, scuttled under roads and ditches, planting shaped charge mines. When armored reinforcements rushed forward, the crawler charges detonated in sequence. The first blast blew the tracks off a T-72, blocking the road. Seconds later, a supply truck ignited, spraying flames across nearby vehicles. The convoy halted in panic, formation shredded before it reached the front. The pressure was relentless. Drones harassed sensors overhead. Tanks and infantry closed in on the ground. EW bent missiles off course. Reinforcements stumbled into robot-laid minefields in the rear. The assault was synchronized to overwhelm, not merely strike. Russian defenses finally responded with everything they had. From camouflaged revetments on Kursk's edge, Pantsir S-1s came alive, and 4 interceptors burned toward the arcs of incoming Vilka rockets. The missiles tore toward the approach, detonating with violent bursts that peppered aluminium skins and left scars but did not break warheads. The rockets pressed on, guidance systems stubbornly correcting. Panzer and Tor crews split their attention. Autocannons stitched tracer lines into the night, but often shot at decoys. Shilka gunners poured belt after belt into the dark, the barrel heat glowing red while tracers vanished into black. Ukrainian doctrine had planned for this. Saturate the defense, force target prioritization, then punish every choice. Swarms of drones continued to torment, some carrying small charges to dive into radar dishes, others orbiting with cameras streaming live. Each flash, each detonation, every plume confirmed the plan's success. In the overloaded defense, the way cleared. Even as Panzer crews frantically reloaded, the first Vilka found its mark. At 22:03, its 370-pound warhead slammed into the eastern warehouse of the Kursk depot. The blast detonated pallets stacked with 152mm artillery shells. A rolling chain of secondary explosions that split the night. 30 seconds later, a second rocket pierced the roof of the Grad storage. igniting rows of 122mm rockets whose solid fuel motors turned the warehouse into a furnace, hurling fiery debris hundreds of feet into the sky. The third missile struck the western depot, and a chain reaction from cluster warheads triggered miniature detonations across the compound. The conflagration spread fast. By now, the inferno consumed multiple warehouses. The most dangerous blow remained. At 22:55, the underground bunkers holding BM-30 Smerch rockets cooked off. The chain reaction was apocalyptic. In an instant, the ground convulsed and a crater nearly 130 feet wide was blasted into the earth. A mushroom cloud clawed skyward, glowing an angry orange at its core and rising thousands of feet. The shockwave rippled across Kursk Oblast, rattling windows for miles. Fire crews could not reach the heart of the blaze. Roads were shredded with craters and burning wrecks blocked approach routes, their passages trapped by robotic mines that detonated under convoy tires. Drones buzzed overhead, some strafing trucks with small charges, others simply orbiting with cameras, live streaming every eruption for the world to see. The heat warped steel before firefighters could get close. For Ukrainian commanders watching via drone feed, the site confirmed the overloaded defense had failed. Kursk was burning from the inside out. As the fires raged, Ukrainian armored groups began withdrawing under smoke canisters. Engines roared and tanks and carriers vanished back into the tree line. Drones lingered not to strike but to record and broadcast. The inferno was now evidence. The depot's destruction was a strategic upheaval. Supply stocks gone, launch networks severed. Entire formations left without the ammunition trains and spare parts needed to reconstitute. For Russian forces, it was a strategic nightmare. For the watching world, it was a harsh lesson. Modern multi-domain warfare is won by those who can overload an opponent's systems, electromagnetic, cyber, aerial, and ground, and keep them from ever reconnecting. The battlefield had transformed from contested space into controlled terrain, and the price had been paid in metal and fire.